Welcome to the Social Podcast, where no discussion or debate is off limits.
Welcome to The Social. We'd like to welcome back writer Jamie Woo. Welcome back, Jamie. All right, you ready to mix it up, Jamie?
Oh, absolutely.
Always. Well, I don't know if anybody was online last night, but the Victoria's Secret fashion show made their return. After 6 years, they are back, and they promised inclusivity and a rebrand around the female gaze. There was a lot of diversity on the runway, including an appearance from transgender model Alex Consani, and also hits of nostalgia. Supermodels Tyra Banks and Kate Moss walk down the catwalk. So the question we are asking today is, was it worth bringing the Victoria's Secret fashion show back? Really?
I was following along online, and there was a lot of enthusiasm. I think it was partially nostalgia. You mentioned a lot of retro models that we loved to see again. But for me personally, I was kind of like, meh. I didn't really feel much of anything. It felt a little like, along with the nostalgia, it felt a bit tired, and it felt, to me, a little bit tokenistic. And I'll say that they're in this dilemma, right? Remember that Victoria's Secret, the secret behind Victoria, was that there was all this online bullying, sexual harassment. There was
in the workplace,
misogyny, ill treatment of models. There was all kinds of scandal. So they went quiet for a while. So they've come back, and they're doing the right thing. But I guess it remains to be seen, was this just done as a gesture to be like, look, we fixed all our problems? I guess the proof will be in what comes after. Can they keep this up?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys hope? I'm on the same side with you, and it actually reminded me of something. Last weekend I was at the grocery store, and I saw these cookies that I hadn't had in a long time, and it was like a nostalgia thing, so I grabbed them, threw them in the box, got in the car, and even wait till I got home, opened the box, took a bite, and I was like, something tastes different. And then when I looked at the box, it was gluten-free. And I felt like last night's fashion show was like the gluten-free cookie. Like, I don't know what was missing, but it just didn't feel the same. And it could be me because it was a different time. And I remember that was a huge assignment as a reporter if you got that. So maybe I'm in a different time in my life where I'm like, maybe I wouldn't want to see that. It was also, at the same time, it was great. While it was great to see those older models, it also made me feel like that era of the supermodel is over because we're looking at women who are now like, they're all mothers, they're all in their 40s, some of them even in their 50s, but I didn't recognize any of the newer models. I remember when that show first came out, that was where all the big supermodels walked down that catwalk, and it felt a little, it's nice for the nostalgia, but it really wasn't the same. Like the gluten-free thing that I'm talking about.
Something missing.
And there's also something about the entertainment industry. Why won't we just let something end? Whether it's an episodic TV show that we really love or this fashion show, it's been 6 years since the last show. Did we really need it to come back? Or could we not just leave it where it was and having a great moment?
They let it,
it's come back, but does anybody, did you love it?
I guess it's the business case, right? They want to keep selling their stuff.
I mean,
Maybe.
they're talking about it. I think that they did their job. There was definitely, I like the historic element where Alex and Valentina Sampaio as the first trans models on the runway. I thought that was great. But while watching it, I did think, like, who is this for? Like, who's the Victoria's Secret girly now who's watching this going, oh, I'm so glad Charlie and Chappell are on the soundtrack while Cher is performing. You've got Tyler and Lisa. It was just sort of trying to please everyone, I think, and that's the problem. When I watch the Savage Fenty show, I know who that's for, right? And that
You're talking about Rihanna's line.
Rihanna's line.
Yes.
That's the problem. Rihanna spoiled us because her fashion show, the Fenty.
that show.
It's true.
That's a lingerie show.
You're totally right. That feels like progress. That feels like the future. And maybe Victoria's Secret is like yesterday.
Yeah.
I will say that there was a nostalgia hit for me where I was like, oh yeah, I remember when the Victoria's Secret show was the thing.
Yeah.
But you know what else hit me just as hard? That's when I remember hating my body the most.
Really?
That show was always a reminder every year as a woman, a young woman watching that. I am not that. I will never be that. And if that is the beauty standard, I always finish watching that show going, how much more do I have to diet? How much more do I have to work out? I think that the legacy of those really ultra thin models, even though it was more inclusive last night, the nostalgia we will never let go of is they set impossible beauty standards standards for the rest of us,
Don't all runway shows have
Sure, but this show was different. It was different because the models were bigger than the lingerie. The models, you remember all the shots they would have of the men in the front row and gays. So I will say this now as the mother of a daughter, I will never let her watch that show as long as I possibly can.
Really?
Nope.
Even though they have done more of a gesture towards inclusivity, there was like Ashley Graham was there. There was definitely more body diversification than there ever has been.
Sure, absolutely.
And age as well.
I think I'm trying to do so much about trying to teach my daughter that yes, the women are beautiful. I'm not saying they're not beautiful. Everybody looked beautiful. But if we're still saying that women's #1 currency is their body, that's not the message I'm trying to send my daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
on that note, I know.
I have much more to say, but we have to move on
to the next one. All right, so Mariah Carey appeared on La Culturistas podcast to express her hatred of something we all deal with. Take a look.
Listen, I can't with the overhead lighting. Oh. Why do they do it to us? Why? And I shouldn't even say us because it's not us, it's me. I'm the one that gets the most tortured by the hideous lighting in every elevator, doorway, gyms.
All right, so Jamie, Mr. Polka Dots, are you tortured by overhead lighting?
I love that Mariah did this on Las Culturistas because I feel Bowen and Matt really brought out the diva in her.
Yes.
And we love a diva.
Yes.
I think sometimes you just need, this is Mariah Carey with her humidifiers and with her who knows what else. If she wants to banish overhead lighting, that's what I want from her. I don't want Mariah to be demure and be like, you know what I want? Yeah, I don't want her to be mindful. I want her to be larger than life so that I know that exists. That's not me, but I like when a diva is a diva.
And she's worthy of it. Come on, it's talking about Mariah here. And you know what, I'll say this much, she's one of the handful of superstars who comes with a lighting writer. So if you want to interview her, she has a very long list of requirements before she sits down in that seat and you press record. She's like, if the lighting ain't this, honey, I'm not doing the interview. So she really is not playing with it.
You know who did that even before Mariah, and we love Mariah for this, is Dolly Parton. I interviewed her in Nashville. We walked into her studio, and I've seen things I've never seen before. So this is us, but look below us. Do you see that underlighting? You see there's a huge light. It's actually sitting under us. That's because she said 0 shadows from overhead. So when you shoot light from below, like if we had a light right here, we'd have no double chins, we'd have no wrinkles.
Then there's that like flashlight of the horror movie.
That's different. Yeah, no, that's different. That's different.
I mean, we're talking about this in the context of diva behavior, but I actually think good lighting is a human right.
Yeah.
And I do. And I'll tell you this. This is one of the easiest ways for companies to actually improve the morale and mental well-being. And I'm not saying this with a sense of humor. For their employees, so many people have like fluorescent lighting, pot lighting, I've been in stores before where I can tell the employees are having lights facing into their eyes. They have brutal headaches. They're in bad moods. They are gonna be like trying to get off work early. It's an easy fix. I, of course, am married to somebody who is a lighting designer. So everyone who ever comes to our house is in a good mood and they look amazing.
Wow.
Good lighting.
Selfies at your house.
You're so right. It doesn't matter what your outfit is, your makeup, your hair. If the lighting's all wrong, honey, you look like trash. But you know what? I think people at home really don't understand how lighting really helps us. So we want to give you guys an example of what overhead lighting would do to us here. You guys want to play along and see what it looks like?
I don't want to play along. I don't want to play along.
Karen, can you turn off the lights first, please? Just turn them off. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So there's no lighting. Okay.
All right, now Kwame, I want you to turn on the overhead lighting so they can get a taste of what it would look like.
Oh.
I'm just eyes and teeth over here.
That's fine. I'm okay with it.
Oh where am I?
Yeah, this is no bueno. This is no bueno.
This is what Mariah refuses. Mariah, we are Team Mariah.
We are Team Mariah.
Let's turn the light switch back on. Oh, God said let there be light. There it is.
Okay. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that worldwide efforts to reverse declining birth rates are falling flat. Incentives like tax deductions, extra vacation days, and free fertility treatments have not worked to get more babies into the world. So what do we think are the reasons for this?
Well, I think it's just so ridiculous to trivialize having a family down to just finances. And I think some people are just short of understanding that we're in a different time. Like, for example, my grandmother and my mother really didn't have a choice when it came to becoming a mother. It was expected by everybody, and that social pressure was everywhere. And luckily for me, I'm in a time where I have a choice. And I've always felt like I had a choice where I could have a family and stay home and take care of my children, or I could go after my career, move to another country and do whatever I want. And I think that's the part that people are having a hard time with, where women are choosing and they're not choosing the thing they think that we are naturally born to do, which is become mothers. And it's like, it's not about your subsidized minivan, although that sounds very exciting, right? $150,000 in loans, I'm sorry, that sounds like debt. I don't understand why they brought it down to money. It's about choices, and I think people just can't wrap their brain around the fact that there are a lot of women who just don't want to make that choice. And I'll say this, you might be surprised if you talk to some of the women in your family, the older ones, that they actually didn't want to make that choice either. And if they could go back, they might not have had as many children, or it would have been a different situation for them. So. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's a fascinating discussion because what this found was that this is not just a Canadian problem. This is happening across the world, South Korea, many parts of Europe, for example. And it turns out that, they actually distilled it and realized it's actually not about money. They said regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of education level, women are choosing to not have children. And I think that if you've all heard, there's whispers of this happening, maybe not whispers, yells happening south of the border in the presidential election. There is this thing called the Pronatalist Movement, and you've probably heard about this. It's this push for women to have children, to bring back the traditional family. And some people say this is because we're having declining birth rates. And so how can you do that without asking women to carry that burden? We want to have choices, to your point, Andrea. We want to choose if we want to be ambitious and go out in the workforce. But if you want us to do that, and you also want us to increase the birth rate, which is our job. How do you expect us to do both?
Yeah.
And I think you cannot have a pronatalist movement or this expectation of increasing birth rates without targeting men. If you do not bring men into this conversation to say, you need to step up and help, well, then why am I going to take all the pressure?
You bring up a good point.
I think too, when I was growing up in an immigrant, racialized family, I remember all of us kids being brought to some auntie's house or some uncle's house, and all the parents are playing mahjong. All the kids as a giant squad are playing together. And I don't see that with my friends with kids anymore. They're raising them on their own. It's so hard for them because they have their kids full-time all the time. They don't get to be adults at the same time. When they see me and they're like, oh, where are you off to? The symphony or a movie? The envy in their eyes. I really worry for them because raising kids, you do need a village, right? That proverbial village. And I think we've lost that culturally as well. People do feel like they're only doing it by themselves.
Well, that's why I guess in the States they've declared what parenthood as a
crisis, a mental health crisis.
Yeah. Maybe people are hearing that. I also think there's a piece of this which you're talking about. It's the career trajectory. Women's biggest earning potential occurs between the ages of 35 and 54, they say, and those are exactly the time periods where you've just either come out of school or just starting to get your foot in the door, just maybe starting to advance, and then you're going to press pause on that and opt out. For many women, that's certainly what I was faced with. That's part of the reason why I only had one. I was right in the middle of a flurry of a career change. And again, looking back, I have regrets around that. I do. And I've had to live with it. I've had to grieve it. I've had to think about it. But I'm not surprised that people are caught in this conundrum. I don't know what the answer is. Part of the problem is the way the workforce is constructed. It is not only the men needing to step up, because they're also part of these patriarchal structures that are disenfranchising them as well. All I know is that right now we got a problem. We can't take care of parents, new parents. We can't take care of the elderly. We can't take care of the planet. So clearly, we are part of the problem. We got to figure this out.
We really do. We do.
All right, next up, someone wrote to Miss Manners to ask if quitting social media means losing friends. What do you guys think? All right, well, she says deleting her account has been largely wonderful, but some of her friends can't accept that she's not looking at their posts. Some have even said it's rude not to engage in this modern way. So, Jamie, I'm going to throw to you first. What are your feelings about this?
I think it's so hard because I remember I think the way that we communicate has fundamentally changed with social media because nowadays, I remember when I had good news, I used to call my friends, right? You do a check-in, you'd let them know. You tell the same story 4 or 5 times, but you want everyone to know. And nowadays, we just post it to our Instagram stories. And then we expect that people will see it, but the algorithms select who gets to see what. So the sad thing is I've lost friends even on social media because they're not seeing my posts or I'm not seeing their posts. And over time, it's really interesting to see who shows up on your feed and who you end up talking to.
So you've actually lost friends because you're not engaging with them?
I've had friends who have not talked to me in years because the algorithm slowly sort of puts them in the background.
Really?
And I've had to go, oh my God, I have to actively work towards making sure that we're in touch.
And they got mad because you didn't see something important in their life and reach out, or why did that end?
I think nowadays we're so focused on seeing Instagram stories as the only way we talk, we sort of just become not visible in each other's lives anymore. And so the people who engage with you most on these apps are the ones who you'll see most. And so you feel like they're your closer friends. It's a very weird world we live in now.
It's very weird, and I'm always griping about this, and I know I'm getting older, because I'm like, for me, social media, I'm gonna say, it's not a real place. It's a real thing, but it's not a real thing, and let me clarify. When it comes to your true friendships, the people who will show up for you when things are hard, the people who have your phone number, the people who are showing up at your baby shower, your graduation, people who know what's going on, those are your top tier friends, and they don't care what's happening on your social media. They're getting it IRL, in real life. And then there's and then there's the B group. These might be your coworkers, people you see on a regular basis, but you're not gonna exactly break bread with them at Thanksgiving, but you still talk to each other and you're friendly with each other. And then for me, C is all the social media people, all of these followers. Go on and see how many followers I have. Listen, things got real for me last month. And I'll tell you something, all of the followers I have, those aren't the people who showed up and wiped my tears and were there with me on the day that I had to say goodbye to my dad. Those are not those people. The real people were the top tier people who don't know what's happening on my social media. So I get so frustrated when people are like, oh, this person doesn't double tap on my picture. Who cares? It's not a real place. It's not
It's
a
so
real
funny.
thing.
I totally hear what you're saying, and I agree on many levels. But Jeannie Becker was just on our show last week, and she has a brand new memoir out. And she, funny enough, said the opposite, that when she was diagnosed with breast cancer and she chose to share it on her social media, she said that was the thing that got her through her breast cancer journey. And so for her, it was the support.
But she said that she used the word followers, not friends.
No, I know that, but I think it did something for her. It kept her going. There were messages of encouragement. It was like, keep going, or thank you for sharing your story. I feel seen, or I'm going through my own journey. So I think it's an interesting thing for different people. I just know, again, as the mother of a young person, we can have this conversation because we were still the generation that was born without the internet. We understand, we know what face-to-face friendship looks like in practice. My daughter doesn't know that. Her lifeline outside of the in real life and in school friendships is if you're not online, there's a whole part of your life that you're missing out, and they feel like they're missing out. So as a parent, I'm trying to balance that this is real for them. And they are being left out when they're not online. But so how do we balance that?
Isn't it interesting that we're also in the middle of an epidemic of loneliness? While we have so many connections, we're also feeling very isolated and lonely. There's a gap there. This is what I'm talking about. It's not real. It's not a real place.
So Norwegian journalist Kirsty Flaw is spilling the tea on bad interviews that she's had with celebrities over the years. And high on this list is now the viral awkward exchange with Anne Hathaway. Take a look.
Do you feel that love was more passionate back then, or people would sacrifice more for love than we do today?
No.
No?
No.
Do you remember your first crush?
No.
You don't? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's nice meeting you.
It's a little icy in there. Well, Flaw now says that Anne recently sent her a very personal and touching apology for that interview. The question is, and Jamie, we'll throw this to you, should Anne have apologized for that awkward interview?
I think it's tough. Like, I've done a lot of interviews being on both sides. I've interviewed a lot of celebrities, and I've also been interviewed for things. It's always a nerve-wracking experience because you know every word is being recorded and you don't know how it's gonna be perceived. The context behind that interview, though, before was that she sang her question and asked Anne to sing back in response. And that is a nerve-wracking thing to do, to sing live, to try to sing an answer, and it really throws off an interview. You're really trying to make sure there's a relationship there. I think if I had been asked to sing live right now, I would shut down. And I think that's what Anne did. She shut down. And
she's an actor. Like, here's where I keep going back to.
Wasn't it for Les Mis?
It was for Les Mis. That was what it was for.
Okay.
And listen, everyone can have a bad day, and like we've all had them. But I keep on coming back to, like, if I was in the position of either one, if I was in Anne's position, I think I would at least, even if I was kind of irritated by the person or had enough, I would at least be like, oh, I don't know if I can remember that. I would at least try to be in my tone and in my demeanor, come up with some kind of an answer, knowing full well that journalist, it might be their first time they've ever done it. It might be that they're trying their hardest. I feel for the journalist, because I've been in that position before, where you are literally, you've got 4 minutes and you are expected to make some kind of an impression, make a moment. You've got your company breathing down your neck.
Name names. Is there anybody bad? Name names.
Well, it's not that I want to call it the actor. I do remember, and again, it's not her fault, but I was on one of those scrums, like a red carpet thing, and you were expected to come home with stuff. We'd lost like one celebrity, we'd lost another celebrity. Finally, Mila Kunis came up, and I was like desperate, so I shoved my microphone in, and she goes, whoa, enough. And it was like a bite, right? But I kind of deserved it, and I was okay with that in that moment. But at the same time, I hope that also she recognizes that I was just trying to do my job.
I know, but you know what I don't like about this? It's such a breach for what we do, and we want access to these people, and I just feel like this is not the way we get people to sit down. First of all, junkets in itself, it's just a hard thing. People may not know, but you really get in there and you have like 5 minutes with this person, and why I don't like this, it's like, it's an unfair fight because we're getting one side of the story. What happened before Anne shut down? Because I've interviewed Anne Hathaway, and she was nothing but lovely. She was nothing but lovely. So I feel like this is the same reporter who called out Blake Lively a couple months ago.
She's the same girl.
It's the same girl. So this is what I'm talking about. Could you imagine meeting someone for 5 minutes and they take 1 minute out of that interaction, throw it on the internet and go, look at how she was to me. That's not fair, because you're like, wait a second, why didn't you tell them the way you came in? Why didn't you tell them about the attitude that you had? Why didn't you tell them about the way you made me feel? They don't ever get to punch back, and I don't think it's fair. And she shouldn't have to apologize for something that happened ages ago. And this is not what we do as entertainment reporters when we get an opportunity to talk to top-tier talent. This is not what we should be doing. I'm sorry, I don't like it.
Subscribe to The Social Podcast so you don't miss a fiery debate. Until next time, socialites.